So Matthew's wake was today, and let me just say this. When it comes to cases like this one, I don't think it's a good idea to be spreading the location of these little events all over the internet. When we're dealing with a case like this one, I don't think it's a good idea to be publicly posting the location of the wakes, the visuals, the funerals, and you name it. I mean, I feel terrible that Savanah and Matthew and their unborn child are gone. I know that everyone wants to send their condolences. Some people want to show up and pay their respects, but at the same time, we have to remember what type of case that we're dealing with here. There's a lot of street-ish involved in this case. And when there's a lot of street-ish or possible gang-related activity, when there's all of that stuff surrounding a case, sometimes people pop up at the wakes, they pop up at the funerals, and they do something crazy. When looking at a case like this one, the funerals, the wakes, they can turn sour very quickly. God forbid that someone wanting some type of retaliation, God forbid someone who didn't like Savanah or Matthew pops up at one of these events, at one of these funerals, and does something crazy. Now, if you think that is far-fetched, if you think that something like that couldn't happen, then look no further than, hell, not that long ago at all, when Savanah's family was in court beating the hell out of someone. So you have to remember, like I said, I feel bad that Matthew and Savanah are gone. I'm not here to judge them for their decisions, but at the same time, I don't want anyone else getting hurt. I don't want any innocent bystanders getting shot. I don't want other family members getting involved in conflicts at these events. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to be, hey, everyone, come here, yeah. Here's the location to the entire world. Let's blast it to the entire world. We already know that these families got beef with people in the streets. Matthew's family said it straight up that people had shot at him before. And who knows what type of stuff, was really behind their murders. Because I believe it's something more than just a deal gone wrong. And, like I said, if you think it's wild to believe that something like this could happen, look no further than when Savanah's family was in court not that long ago beating the hell out of someone. They retaliated in court. You think someone won't retaliate at the cemetery or outside of a church or somewhere else? Anything is possible, especially when you're dealing with a case like this one. But as the days pass, and as these victims are laid to rest, the question on everyone's mind is, will another suspect be arrested? I think that a lot of us are all kind of just hanging around. We're all sitting around the water cooler, taking little sips of water, having a little small talk, just waiting for the announcement to come in that another arrest has been made, because I think the general opinion here online is that there was someone else in that truck with Christopher's father, Ramon, right? And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I look at these clips that are shown online all the time when it comes to these true crime cases and when it comes to other cases. I am not afraid to call out some BS. If I don't think there's anything to it, I am not going to pretend that there is just to get clicks. That happens a lot with true crime. People make something out of nothing purposely for clicks. Now, I like clicks just as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to ruin my reputation over spreading nonsense, right? But I've looked at this clip that law enforcement released at least 1,000 times. And to be honest, it damn sure looks like there's someone else in the vehicle. Now, like I said, I am not afraid to call something out when it's fake. I've spent like the last 3 days debunking that alien story in Miami, the nonsense alien story in Miami. I've spent so much time looking into that and debunking it every step of the way. But when I look at this clip that's released, I can't debunk that. It looks like there's someone else in the truck. Law enforcement has already stated that they're looking into it. They're aware that everyone's talking about that other person in the truck. But I've been wondering, how does Matthew and Savanah's family feel about this? Because I know that somewhere, Matthew and Savanah's family, they're paying attention to what's going on. They see the talk. They see the video. I would have to imagine, we're all at home looking at the video, trying to figure out what's going on. How do you think they feel? It's their son. It's their daughter. It's their granddaughter, their grandson, their nephew, their brother, their sister. You name it. It's their loved ones. So I've been wondering, how do they feel about this? Well, Matthew's father spoke about it recently, and I found what he had to say interesting, because it looks like, well, instead of telling you what it looks like, let's just listen to what he has to say really quickly. Before I roll this clip, though, I need a huge favor from all of you all. I need you to hit that like button. We got to start getting those likes up. And I need you all to subscribe if you haven't already. But without further ado, let's roll this clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Because of the time of the murder and the time the bodies were found, I'm not able to have an open casket for Matthew. So even that person who threw the towel knew a crime had been committed, and just by not reporting it, I'm gonna have to have a close casket for Matthew. So most definitely, I'm pushing for that third person. I want any and everyone involved in any way, shape, or form held to the highest
prosecuted to the fullest.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with anything he just said, right? I can't disagree with anything he just said. If there's a third suspect, that third suspect needs to be arrested, and they need to be held accountable for what they did, for playing whatever part in this that they played. The fact that Matthew has to have a closed casket, but I understand that they want, I don't know how many of you all have dealt with the loss of a loved one. I don't know how many of you all have dealt with the loss of a loved one through something like this. Sometimes it's better to have that image in your head of a person when they were still here, as opposed to the image in your head when they're laying in their casket. I don't really want to go deep into detail about that, but if you understand, you understand. And I know some of you all definitely understand what I'm saying. But when it comes to this third suspect, much of my question is, I really would like to know, how much did Ramon know? And if there was someone else in this truck, which it looks like it was, how much did they know? Because here's my thing. Let's say you're riding in the truck with a friend, and that friend gets an emergency call from their son or their daughter, right? And they speed off somewhere, and you're just there. You don't know what's going on. And they wind up bringing you in a situation like this. How guilty are you then? You know what I mean? Like, put yourself in this position. You're riding with a friend, maybe you're riding with a family member, you're riding with someone, and they get that emergency call from their kid, and they zoom over to a location. You don't really know what's going on. You have nothing to do with that at all, right? But out of nowhere, you have no control over the situation. You're kind of dragged into something like what happened to Matthew and Savanah. If the third suspect, if the third person in the car, if the other person in the truck, if there was one, if they had no knowledge as to any of this stuff that was going on, what type of charge do you think they should get? And how guilty do you really think they are? I know it's easy right now for us to grab our pitchforks and we grab our torches. Burn them all! Death penalty for everyone! I understand that, right? And I do think that Christopher, throw whatever you want at Christopher. But when it comes to how much involvement other people had, that's the question that I have. Because I just feel like if you're there in the truck and you have no idea what's going on, and someone pulled you up to a murder scene, I don't think that you should, really be... It all has to do with how much knowledge. But I'm saying if you're totally unaware, you're just sitting here, you thought you were about to drive to the movies. Maybe you thought you were about to go to CVS, right? Get some cough medicine. But all of a sudden there's a detour on your trip. And next thing you know, you're brought to the scene of a murder. How guilty are you then? I mean, obviously you didn't call the police or tell them, but how guilty are you? How much time do you really deserve, right? But, it all ties back to what communications were had between Christopher and Ramon. That is, in my opinion, one of the key details. Like, that's one of the key things that law enforcement, I feel like, needs to figure out. Because if you're really trying to really solve this case and give everyone the appropriate charges, you need to figure out how much involvement Ramon had, how much knowledge Ramon had. Because as of right now, all we know is that Ramon's truck pulls up, the victim's car pulls up, and we don't really see Ramon doing too much, right? We don't see too much going on. So what knowledge did he have? And according to what knowledge he had, how much of that knowledge was transferred to the other person in the vehicle, if another person was in the vehicle. Because we're dealing with a situation here where this could be planned out and everyone could have known everything that was going on. Or we're dealing with a situation where Christopher did something crazy, spur of the moment, calls his dad. His dad doesn't even realize what he's getting himself into. Maybe rides to this location with someone else in the car, and then they basically get themselves in a lot of trouble for just showing up and being there, and I guess not calling the cops, Because I don't know if Ramon helped move and pick up these bodies and stuff. We don't know that. We don't know that. There's so much information that is unclear. We don't even know if the firearm they found, did it belong to Matthew or did it belong to Christopher? Or do y'all not know? There's so many details. And honestly, I don't know how much more information law enforcement is going to let us know. I know that this is kind of a high profile case now because it has a lot of attention, but at the end of the day, if this is viewed as just a deal gone wrong, how much more are they going to put in this case? This isn't like a serial killer case. This isn't one of those type of cases. This is the type of case that literally happens every day. I know we look at Matthew and Savanah's situation and it's sad, it sucks, but this is happening every day in a city near you, probably in your city. Cases like this every day. So there's not much about this case that really, how can I put it? There's not much about this case now that the suspects have been caught. There's not much about this case that would keep it in the forefront of everyone's attention, and there's not much about this case that would warrant law enforcement doing constant updates. We're going to give you press conferences every couple of days, because at the end of the day, for law enforcement, this case is just like probably 50 other cases that they're dealing with right now as we speak. But all in all, I am glad to see that Matthew's father, at the very least, is looking into the possibility of another suspect, because pretty often when it comes to these cases, the victims' families and the internet are usually like on a different page, right? Like in a lot of the cases that I've covered, at least, victims' families and the internet are usually on a totally different page. But when it comes to this case, as of right now, it seems like for the most part, everyone's on the same page. The internet, including myself, including most of you, we believe there was someone else in that truck. Matthew's father also believes there was someone else in that truck. I'm curious to know what law enforcement believes. Also, I'm curious because I do believe there's a possibility that law enforcement may know that there was someone else in the truck, but they may not charge them. I think that third person could be someone who's maybe revealing information. Maybe that third person, that third suspect is someone that is being used, dangling their potential arrest over the head of Ramon and over the head of Christopher in order to extract more information out of them. But only time will tell. Let me know your thoughts, though, down in the comments below. If you're feeling generous, you can donate to this channel via CashApp. I'll have my CashApp in the pinned comment, or you can donate via Super Thanks, or for free, you could help the channel by sharing the video, liking the video, subscribing, ringing the notification bell, all of that good stuff. And with that being said, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.